My rival and I both fell into the water. Sophia ignored me and went to find help for him. After I dragged myself ashore on my bad leg, I told her I wanted a divorce. Sophia looked at me, bewildered. Felix can't swim. I had to help him first. Are you really making a big deal out of this? Our 5-year-old son's face was just as cold. Dad, you're fine. Why do you have to be so petty? I slapped Sophia across the face. Then I grabbed my son's cheek and sneered. Yes, I am. I'm just that petty. Sophia's head snapped to the side. When she turned back, her lip was twitching as she fought to control her anger. Leo, can you please calm down? Zach, being just a little kid, started crying and struggling. No wonder Mom saved Uncle Felix instead of you. You're a horrible person. You deserve to fall in. I hauled him up by his arm, my bad leg throbbing, and gave him a swat on the butt. That's right. I'm a horrible person. Go ask Felix to be your new dad. Felix pushed me aside and pulled Zach into a hug, cradling him protectively. Out of Sophia's line of sight, he shot me a triumphant, mocking smile. Leo, he's just a kid. He's just saying things because he's upset. How could you hit him? Hiding in Felix's arms, Zach shrieked, I'm not just upset. I don't want him as my dad. He's so lame. He can't ride a horse or play golf. He's nothing compared to Uncle Felix. Mom doesn't like him and I don't like him either. Before Zach could spill any more of his true feelings, Sophia cut him off. Zach, stop it. With that, she stood in front of them both, a guardian protecting her own. The crying child, the gentle father figure, the beautiful mother. Ah, what a perfect little family. To make it worse, Felix was still being passive-aggressive. What an adorable, well-behaved kid. I could never bring myself to lay a hand on him. You're a pretty heartless father. A smirk played on my lips as I stared him down. Say one more word, and I guarantee the next slap will be on your face. I watched the smile freeze on Felix's face. I scoffed. Leaving the cheating cow, the scumbag, and their little brat on the beach, I turned and walked away. The next day, I handed Sophia the divorce papers. She frowned, pushing her gold-rimmed glasses up her nose, her face etched with exhaustion. If you take this too far, it's not going to be easy to walk it back. I'm not taking it far. Just sign it. Our assets will be divided according to the prenup. As for Zach's custody, it's all yours. Zach had inherited Sophia's coldness and cruelty, and her lack of love for me. Rather than force him to stay by my side, it was better to let him go with her. Sophia put the papers down. She looked up at me, her face a mask of confusion. Is this all because of what happened yesterday? Felix can't swim. What was wrong with me going to help him? You were fine. Does it really have to come to divorce? She acted all self-righteous, using yesterday's incident to blame me. As if the mere fact that I didn't die in the water proved her right. She owned the moral high ground now. Yesterday, Sophia and I had taken Zach to the beach. Partway through, Sophia left for a little while. And in that short time, she brought Felix back with her. She claimed she'd run into him on the way and brought him along because he was all alone. Ignoring my sour expression, Zach, who was usually reserved and stuck to my side, threw himself into Felix's arms with a look of pure joy. Uncle Felix, it's only been a day, but I missed you so much. It was in that moment that I realized Sophia and Felix had been in contact all along. Worse, she had even taken Zach to see him more than once. When I looked at Sophia, her face went pale, and she stammered out an explanation. I just ran into Felix a few times when I was picking Zach up from school. Her transparently false excuse made my heart sink. Later, a large wave crashed onto the beach. Felix and I were both swept into the surf. The tide wasn't high, and the wave wasn't strong enough to pull someone out to sea. It was like some kind of twisted loyalty test. It forced Sophia to choose between me and Felix. She forgot I was her husband. She forgot about the limp I had from the injury I got saving her. Without a second thought, she abandoned me and chose to save Felix. And now she was asking me if this was really necessary? Of course it was necessary. She and Zach didn't have to love me, but I had to love myself. I looked her straight in the eye and asked, word by word, what if I hadn't been fine? What if I couldn't have climbed out of those waves on this bad leg? Sophia, the only reason I'm standing here asking for a divorce is because I'm still alive. Sophia's mouth opened, her words faster than her thoughts. But you are still alive. Before she could finish, she realized her mistake and stopped. She looked away, flustered, and took a deep breath. She was pretending to reason with me, but her words were a threat. But if you leave me, you have no parents, no family. Where would you even go? I smiled and pushed the papers a little closer to her. That's not your problem. Just sign it. Consider it repayment for me saving your life back then. Sophia was a proud woman. She hated it when I brought up the fact that I'd saved her life. She was also convinced I would never leave her because of our son. She thought I was just throwing a tantrum. But after I mentioned saving her life, her face turned to stone. You always bring that up, she said coldly. Fine, a divorce it is. But once it's done, I won't agree to get back together so easily. You can spend some time out there cooling off and thinking about what you've done. Later, I got the divorce certificate just as I'd wanted. I went back to the house we had lived in for 7 years. It was time to pack up my things. The house was huge, filled with stuff, but very little of it was actually mine. I looked around at all the objects, some expensive, some exquisite. Finally, I went up to the attic and took out the one thing that was truly mine. My easel. I slung it over my back and walked out of the mansion. At the front gate, I saw Zach standing on the second-floor balcony. His lips were pressed into a thin line, his little face an icy mask. He just stood there, watching me. He probably expected me to go to him and coax him like I always did, to kiss him and apologize. I stopped and looked back at him one last time. With a soft sigh, I turned away and spoke to him gently. Eat well, sleep well. Dad won't be around anymore, so you have to take good care of yourself. Zach's eyes were red as he turned his head away and snorted. Just go, then. Uncle Felix will take care of me from now on. I don't need you. I paused for a moment, then said nothing more. As the sun set, I walked away from that mansion with my easel on my back. Zach wasn't always like this. Before Felix came back, he was a sweet, loving kid. When other kids made fun of him because I couldn't ride a horse or play golf, he would always get serious and defend me. So what if he can't? He's my dad. And all that matters is that he loves me enough. That all changed after Felix returned to the country. After Sophia took him to see Felix a few times, he became a different person. The boy who had only ever loved me started being ashamed of my humble background and told me not to pick him up from preschool. When his friends came over to play, he'd tell me to stay out and not come home. He even criticized me for not being strong enough when I was grieving on the anniversary of my parents' death. Thinking about it now, he and Sophia were truly cut from the same cloth. They liked the same person, and they hated the same person. They both liked Felix, and they both hated me. After I realized Sophia didn't love me, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't stand the betrayal, but I couldn't bear to leave Zach. But his hatred for me made my reluctance feel like a joke. The road out of that gated community wasn't long, but it took me 7 years to walk it. Walking down the path in the twilight, my mind drifted back to the past. 15 years ago, my father died saving Sophia's father. My mother passed away soon after from grief and depression. As a young boy, I ended up living with the Whites. Sophia was their only daughter, a spoiled princess who was used to getting her way. But when we were young, she was incredibly kind to me. So kind that I fell hopelessly in love with her. Until she fell for Felix and they started dating. That's when I buried my feelings deep inside. Even after she and Felix broke up, I never dreamed of being with her again. But then, after I saved her from an accident, she started pursuing me. With her parents' encouragement, she began to chase after me. She was the girl I had loved for so many years. I couldn't bring myself to be cold to her. In the end, her persistence won and we got together. We got married and later we had Zach. I thought we would be together forever. But Felix's return shattered my dream. 3 months ago, I went to pick her up after she'd been drinking. Outside the private room, I heard her friends mention Felix. Felix is back. What are you going to do? She rested her head on one hand and swirled the red wine in her glass with the other. a helpless smile on her face. What can I do? I'm already married. Her friends, ever the gossips, pressed on. But what if you weren't? You two were so in love back then. You almost died for him. Sophia gave a bitter laugh. What a stupid thing to say. Oh right, I forgot. Your husband was the one who saved you, and he ended up with a limp. Yeah, for that alone, you could never betray him. The bitter smile on Sophia's lips was a dagger in my heart. It stopped me from going in. It was then that I finally understood. She had never loved me. All she felt for me was guilt. I had been trapped by her lie for 7 years. Fortunately, it wasn't too late. Under the setting sun, I was finally regaining my freedom. I checked into a hotel I'd found earlier. That evening, I got a call from Sophia's parents. They didn't know that Sophia and I were divorced yet. They warmly asked when I was going to bring Zach over to the family estate for dinner. Thinking of her father's high blood pressure, I swallowed the words I was about to say. I just shook my head and told them I was busy lately. After hanging up, I sent Sophia a text. Your parents just called and asked when we're coming over for dinner. I covered for us this time, but you should tell them we're divorced as soon as possible. A long time later, she replied, Got it. I felt I had done all I could. From now on, Sophia was no longer a part of my life. After thinking for a moment, I blocked her number completely. That night, I ran my hand over the easel I'd brought from the mansion. I remembered the wish I'd made as a child, nestled in my parents' arms. When I grow up, I'm going to be a great painter. My mom and dad had ruffled my hair and smiled lovingly. Yes, our Leo is going to be the best painter in the world. But after I went to live with the Whites, I never picked up a paintbrush again. Back then, Sophia's parents had advised me with a knowing look. Leo, you should study business. That's what Sophia is studying. I blame my younger self for being so easily swayed, dazzled by a world that wasn't mine. I gave up my dream and walked a path that was never meant for me. And this old, yellowed easel was like my forgotten dream. No matter how much I wiped it, the stains remained. But thankfully, with enough wiping, the stains began to fade. Looking at the noticeably brighter wood, I finally smiled. I found the brushes I'd bought from a small shop that evening, set up a canvas, and tried to sketch out a memory from my childhood. Just as the tip of my brush touched the paper, my phone rang, shattering the moment. The number was familiar. It was Sophia's assistant, Amy. Mr. Hayes, Ms. White is drunk after a business dinner and is insisting on seeing you. Is it convenient for you to come and pick her up? In the past, whenever Sophia got drunk, she'd always make a scene until I came to get her. Her assistant was used to calling me. But now we were divorced. I put down my brush. My voice was quiet but firm. No, it's not convenient. Your boss and I are divorced. Please don't call me again. Suddenly, I heard the sound of something shattering on the other end of the line. I paused, then continued. You can look through her contacts. There's a guy named Felix. He's a much better person to call to pick her up. Just as I was about to hang up, a strange sound came from the other side. The next second, Sophia's hoarse voice, thick with suppressed anger, came through the receiver. Leo, are you really done with me? I must have been hearing things. After all, a cheater could hardly sound so self-righteous. I let out a soft laugh, said a casual goodbye to Amy, and hung up. I picked up my paintbrush again, pouring all the turmoil in my heart onto the canvas. I went to bed late that night, so when my phone's ringing woke me up, my tone was understandably irritated. Who is it? Who's calling this early in the morning? It was the voice of our old butler, Mr. Henderson. He sounded cautious. Mr. Hayes, Zach is sick. Ms. White left early this morning, and I can't reach her. Could you please come back and see him? Hearing that Zach was sick, a wave of panic washed over me. No father can stay calm when he hears his child is ill, even if that child doesn't love him. I froze for a few seconds, then said urgently, I'm on my way. When I saw him in his room, he was lying alone in bed, looking small and forlorn. My heart ached. I strode to his bedside and placed my hand on his forehead. Does it hurt bad? When Zach saw me, his eyes reddened, and for a fleeting moment, a look of vulnerability crossed his face. But in the next second, he slapped my hand away. He pulled the covers over his head and mumbled, "You already left. Why did you come back? You shouldn't have come back." Zach rarely got sick. Seeing him so fragile, the resolve I had built up over the last few days instantly crumbled. I sat on the edge of his bed and gently pulled the blanket down a bit so he could breathe easier. I saw his face, flushed from the fever, and his red, swollen eyes, brimming with tears. I stared for a second, and regret flooded my heart. Zach was only 5. What did he really understand? His dislike for me and his closeness to Felix were all due to Sophia's influence. He was a blank slate. The person he became was shaped by the people around him. Why was I holding a grudge against a 5-year-old child? The more I thought about it, the more I felt I had wronged him. My voice choked up. "Zach, Dad is so sorry. I shouldn't have left you. I shouldn't have abandoned you here." That's right. I couldn't leave Zach with Sophia. He was so young. There was still a chance to fix things. The more I thought, the more determined my voice became. I leaned over and hugged him, speaking softly. "Zach, come live with Dad. Okay? I'll talk to your mom again about your custody." I could feel Zach's resolve wavering. He even nuzzled his head against my chest. It was as if the sweet, loving Zach from before had returned. Zach stayed in my arms for a long time before he finally mumbled, "Don't even think about it. You'll never get custody of me." I stroked his head reassuringly, my tone firm. "Dad will trade the money I got from the divorce for you." Zach pushed me away, his red-rimmed eyes meeting mine. He spoke the cruelest words in the most innocent voice. "Dad, don't be naive. With Mom, Uncle Felix will take care of me. I'll ride in fancy cars and go to a top private school. But with you, you can't give me anything. Besides, Mom would never let you have me. With me, you can't even escape this house." I was silent for a moment, the words stuck in my throat. "Dad will try my best to negotiate with your mom." Zach's small face was tense as he coolly cut off my feeble struggle. "Dad, I'm not going with you, and you don't belong in this family. You should have stepped aside when Uncle Felix came back. You should go now and don't come back. I don't want to see you again. My dad will be Uncle Felix from now on." This wasn't the first time I had heard these words, but they still cut like a knife. With tears in my eyes, I stared in shock at the child I had waited for so long to have. He turned his head away and pointed a small finger at the door. "Get out. I don't want to see you again." I didn't move. I just kept looking at him. The next second, the cup on his nightstand flew past my head and shattered at my feet. Crash. A shard of porcelain sliced my ankle, and a thin line of blood appeared. As the sharp sting shot through my ankle, my earlier regret felt like a sick joke. Zach wasn't just influenced by Sophia. He was born cold-hearted and unfeeling, and he didn't like me. I took 2 steps back and turned to leave his room. On my way out, I ran into Mr. Henderson. He looked at me with concern, then glanced toward Zach's room. "Did Zach make you angry again?" I shook my head and said in a low voice, "No, I made him angry. And Mr. Henderson, please don't call me about him anymore. He doesn't want to see me." With that, I walked away quickly, leaving the butler behind me. From a distance, I thought I heard him say, "How could that child not love you? He calls out your name in his dreams." I shook my head. "Impossible." He had told me again and again that he didn't need me. On the way back, I looked at the familiar streets. Suddenly, the city felt terrifyingly alien. My phone kept vibrating. It was an unknown number. When I answered, it was Sophia's voice. "Leo, Zach is sick. Why didn't you stay with him?" I scoffed, a surge of hatred rising in me. "Sophia, you got exactly what you wanted. Zach doesn't want me as his father anymore. You must be so proud of yourself right now." Sophia tried to explain, her words tumbling out in a rush. "I never meant for that to happen. I just wanted him to not hate Felix. I lost control and screamed, so you chose to make him hate me instead. Is that it? Leo, that's not what I meant. I wanted Zach to accept Felix so you wouldn't be so hostile toward him." I cut her off with a cold laugh. "Sophia, tell me, why should I accept Felix? Why should I accept the man who destroyed my marriage? Sophia was silent for a long time, so long that I lost the will to fight with her. I hung up the phone and stared at the trees flashing by outside the window. Suddenly, I didn't want to be in this city anymore. I clutched my phone tightly and spoke to the driver. "Sir, do you do long-distance trips? I want to go to Asheville." It was my parents' hometown. I missed them. I submitted my resignation, went back to the hotel to get my luggage, and headed to Asheville.
I admit, I'm a coward.
I was afraid that if I stayed, my resolve would weaken, and I would eventually give in for Zach's sake, sinking back into that hopeless abyss. After all, when I was young, I had given up my paintbrushes for a secret crush, and I hadn't picked them up again for over a decade. Sometimes, when I felt melancholic, I would take out my easel and wipe it down, wondering if I should start over. But every time, I was defeated by my busy job and Zach's endless calls of daddy. Now, after the divorce, those shackles were gone. I felt reborn. Maybe I should thank Zach. If he had been more attached to me, I'd probably still be struggling in that abyss. This was the best possible outcome. I would take my easel to Asheville and, bit by bit, find the boy I used to be. I rented a small cottage in Asheville and began my life alone. Life was vibrant, like the colors in an oil painting, bright and free. My days were spent outdoors with my easel, and my nights were spent curled up in my cottage with a book. While painting landscapes, I even made a group of new friends. They were mostly retired men and women, or students from the nearby art school prep classes. We never planned to meet, but we always seemed to run into each other at scenic spots. Then we would paint together. The turquoise lake, the golden leaves, the magnificent sunsets. At first, my paintings were never good. Whenever someone passed by, I would hide my work, afraid they would laugh at me. But after painting more and more, I lost my fear. You're always making mistakes. Making a mistake isn't scary. What's scary is not having the courage to start over. So now, no matter how unconventional my paintings were, I could set up my easel with confidence and slowly make corrections. Today's painting of the autumn lake was a perfect example. When I first finished it, I wasn't satisfied. The highlights weren't bright enough, it lacked contrast, and the elements didn't connect, but I didn't give up on it. I took my brush and, stroke by stroke, worked to transform it into the scene I envisioned. It wasn't until the sun had set that I finally put down my brush, rubbing my sore back with a sense of relief. I stared at the painting and smiled, finally satisfied. Look at that, he's finished. It's really good, a big improvement over his earlier stuff. At first, I thought the kid had messed it up. I was worried he'd get all shy and hide it like he used to, so I didn't dare look. I can't believe how well it turned out. I looked up. A group of older folks had gathered around me at some point. They were critiquing my painting. They praised my progress, teased me about my initial shyness, and encouraged me to keep going. Surrounded by them, I just smiled. They were right. So what if I messed up? The brush in my hand wouldn't stop. It would always follow my heart's desire and correct the painting until it matched my vision. Even if it was hard, and even if the final result wasn't perfect. I was always moving forward, heading in the direction I wanted to go. My life was just like that, too. Autumn in Asheville is short. In the blink of an eye, snowflakes began to drift from the sky. It got so cold that everyone went out to paint less often. I started painting at home for my own enjoyment. To document my progress, I started a live stream while I painted, without showing my face. I would often talk to myself on the stream. This color doesn't look right. I should use this one. Nice, that makes the composition much more harmonious. Hey, the contrast in this one is great. I'm a genius. After streaming for a while, I gained a few hundred followers. They would often pop into my stream to chat with me and listen to me ramble. 2 usernames, in particular, became very familiar. One was Willow Whisper and the other was Kiddo. Willow Whisper was one of my very first followers. Kiddo showed up about a month later. The reason I recognized them was that they loved to send me donations, and nothing I said could stop them. They were my top 2 supporters. They also seemed to know each other and would often argue in the chat. Willow Whisper was very preachy, always offering critiques of my work while praising it. Kiddo was much cuter. Even when I made a mistake, he would praise my work blindly. So Kiddo often got annoyed by Willow Whisper's critiques. The two of them were constantly at each other's throats. Kiddo, can you even paint? Stop being a know-it-all. Nobody likes that. Willow Whisper, at least I'm not some little kid who can't even spell. Kiddo, you talk too much. No wonder you don't have a husband. Willow Whisper, yeah, well, your dad ran away too. I'd read their chats during my breaks. It was always a head-scratcher. But for all their bickering, they were a united front when it came to defending me. When trolls came into the stream to demand I show my face or insult me, the two of them would team up to blast the troublemakers and protect my channel. I didn't start streaming to make money, so I had a pretty casual attitude about it. But I was still touched by their loyalty. To thank them, I offered to send them one of my paintings as a gift. I smiled and told them to send me their addresses, but my DMs remained stubbornly empty. I figured they had stepped away, so I sent them each a message. Thanks for all your support. If you don't mind, you can leave your address and I'll send you one of my favorite recent paintings. They didn't post in the chat for the rest of the day. It wasn't until I was about to end the stream that I received their addresses. Coincidentally, both addresses were the same. And even more coincidentally, they were in the city I had run away from. I stared at their usernames, and an absurd thought crossed my mind. Then I couldn't help but laugh. How could it possibly be them? One of them was probably enjoying her newlywed life by now. The other was probably celebrating his new high society second father. The next day, I went out into the swirling snow. I went to the local market and bought some famous Asheville specialties. Then I mailed the gifts and the promised paintings to them. When I got home, I didn't feel like taking a nap. Instead, I started a live stream and set up my easel. I was starting to suspect Willow Whisper didn't have a job. Whenever I went live, she was always the first one there to greet me. Kiddo, on the other hand, was more like a student, usually only showing up at night. I glanced at the stream and responded to Willow Whisper's greeting. I've sent the paintings. You can let Kiddo know. With that, I went back to my work. When I was out today, I saw a happy scene in the snow. A father with a hearty laugh, a mother in a red scarf, and their little bundled-up child holding their hands. It reminded me of my parents and me long ago. At that moment, I knew I had to paint it when I got home. I focused on the canvas, painting the scene from my heart. Ding dong. The doorbell rang. I frowned, put down my brush, and went to answer it. It was my neighbor, Linda. She had a gentle smile and a pair of lovely dimples. Mr. Hayes, I saw you had a delivery at the post office. It looked like a bag of rice, so I brought it up for you. I looked at the bag of rice in her hands and remembered the jasmine rice I'd ordered online a few days ago. I thanked her gratefully and was about to take the bag inside. Linda was very kind and insisted on helping. Where do you want it? I'll carry it inside for you. I smiled sheepishly and pointed to the kitchen. Afterward, I offered her a glass of water and then grabbed some fruit I'd bought today from the fridge, pressing it into her arms and thanking her again and again. Once that was all done, I returned to my easel. As my eyes swept across the screen, I saw it was filled with messages from Willow Whisper. There's a woman in your house? Who is she? What is she doing there? What is she to you? I scrolled through my phone and saw she had sent me a ton of DMs too. They were all aggressive questions. The last one read, Leo, answer me. Who is she? I blinked. I was now certain of her identity. Willow Whisper was indeed Sophia, and that meant Kiddo must be Zach. I didn't answer her questions. I just ended the stream. I didn't understand what they were trying to do. Surely they couldn't have suddenly realized my worth after I left. If so, that was just pathetic. After that, I didn't stream for several days. I was glad I hadn't put a return address on the package I'd sent. If they were crazy enough to try to find me, it would probably take them a while. But I never expected to see them again so soon. After holing up at home for a few days, I decided to go out for some fresh air. When I opened the door, I saw Sophia. She was holding Zach's hand. The two of them, one big and one small, just stood there, staring at me. I poured Zach a glass of hot water and then sat down across from Sophia. I watched her with a cold expression as she scanned the room. Why did you come looking for me? Zach sat on the sofa, holding the glass, his face a cold mask. Their expressions made me want to laugh. After confirming there were no other women in the house, Sophia's frown relaxed slightly. She looked at me, her voice soft. "Leo, it's been a while. How are you?" I frowned. "Cut the crap. Zach's winter break is coming up. He wanted to come see you." Zach was the child I had longed for. Whether he liked me or not, I still had a duty to care for him as a minor. I turned my gaze to Zach and spoke softly. "Do you want to stay here with me?" Zach took a small sip of water, his face tense as he shook his head. "No. Mom made me come." I looked down with a bitter smile, then shot a sarcastic look at Sophia. "Don't use your child as an excuse." Sophia's expression soured, her voice turning sharp. "Zach, you watch your tone." I really couldn't stand watching her scold him. I cut her off with a cold laugh. "Can you stop with the act? And we're divorced. You shouldn't be bothering me anymore." Sophia's lips trembled, her expression suddenly defeated. "Leo, I don't get it. I never cheated on you with Felix. We were just friends. As for what happened at the lake, I can promise it will never happen again. From now on, I'll always put you first. Why did you still have to divorce me? You used to love me so much. You even got that limp saving me. What happened to you?" I let out a slow breath and turned to face her directly. "Did you really marry me because you loved me? If you truly loved me, why did you choose to save him first when Felix and I fell in the water? Why did you take Zach to play with him and keep telling me to just accept him? Sophia, don't you dare defile the word love. It's disgusting." As Sophia's face grew paler, I couldn't stop the years of resentment from pouring out. "Sophia, yes, I loved you when we were young. But when I risked my life to pull you out of that car, it wasn't to make you feel indebted to me. I would have saved a complete stranger in that situation. But what did you do, Sophia? You didn't love me, but you pretended to, all out of guilt. Did you think you were compensating me? Do you feel like you're the victim here? My parents always taught me to be a kind person. But do you know what? When I found out you pursued me and married me out of guilt, I regretted saving your life more than anything." Sophia stared at me, her eyes bloodshot. "That's not true. I love you too. I just realized it too late." I took a deep breath and pointed to the door. "That has nothing to do with me anymore. Please stop bothering me." Zach was the first to walk out. At the doorway, he gave me a deep look. My heart stirred and I called out to him. "Zach, do you want to stay here for a few days?" His eyes were clearly full of longing, but he still refused, his voice firm. "No, I don't stay in houses this small." His cold words made the longing I thought I saw in his eyes feel like a delusion. After they left, I leaned against the door and sighed, my feelings a complicated mess. If Zach had stayed, I would have been forced to deal with Sophia again. If it weren't for his repeated cruelty, I would have been trapped forever. After that, I moved a few more times. Sophia still found me. Her family was rich and powerful to them. My information was probably completely transparent. Once I figured that out, I stopped bothering to move. Instead, I chose to just ignore her. After she sent Zach home, she started shamelessly pestering me. She would often follow me on my walks, talking to herself in a sentimental voice. "Leo, we used to walk like this when we were kids. Feels just like old times." When I was invited by my older friends to go paint, she would follow in her car. While I painted, she would stand quietly to the side and watch. After I finished, she would, as usual, reminisce about our childhood. "You had an easel just like this on your back when you first came to my house. I thought you loved painting, but then I never saw you paint again. I never expected you to pick it up again after all these years." The old folks would chuckle behind her back and ask me, "Leo, is this your girlfriend?" I would shake my head and say seriously, "No, she's my ex-wife. We're divorced. She's harassing me." Then I would tell them the whole story of our divorce. The old folks were indignant on my behalf. The next time Sophia followed me out to paint, they ganged up and formed a human wall between her and me. They gave her dirty looks and made it clear she wasn't welcome. I was touched, but I told them they didn't have to do that. "She'll be leaving soon anyway. It's not necessary. Besides, I've already moved on." I was right. Sophia did leave soon after. Urgent business at her company called her back. Before she left, she looked at me seriously and made a promise. I'll come back for you as soon as I'm done with this. I love you. I just smiled and said nothing. No matter how many times she came back, I would never go back to her. Her late blooming love was like spoiled milk to me, so rotten it made me sick. Later, just as she'd said, she came looking for me a few more times, bringing Zach with her. She even tried to use Zach to get me to reconcile with her. Can you really bear to see Zach grow up in a single-parent home? You love him so much. Why not give him the best? But her early brainwashing of Zach had been too effective. Zach just rolled his eyes and said coldly, "Mom, you can marry Uncle Felix, or someone else to be my dad." As Sophia glared at Zach, I couldn't help but let out a soft laugh. Then I closed the door, leaving them outside. After Zach sabotaged her plans a few more times, Sophia stopped bringing him along. She traveled back and forth between Asheville and New York by herself. She would drone on and on about her apologies and her love for me. I was unmoved. Sometimes I even found it funny. Over time, her visits became less frequent, until the 5th year when she suddenly stopped coming altogether. Maybe she finally got tired of it. But it didn't matter to me. By then, I had become a reasonably well-known oil painter in the country, and I had started dating my former neighbor, Linda. And after I decided to marry Linda, Zach showed up out of the blue. He was 12 by then, like a little adult. He handed me a bouquet of red roses, his eyes deep and dark. "Dad, I wish you happiness and success from now on." With that, he pushed the flowers into my arms, turned, and walked away without looking back. Watching him go, I held my girlfriend's hand, a little stunned. I haven't seen him in so long. He seems to have grown up a lot. My girlfriend patted my hand reassuringly. Yes, time flies, doesn't it? Later, on my wedding day, I saw Zach again. I had invited him, but he hadn't accepted or declined. I thought he wouldn't come. But that day, he showed up in a little black suit and presented us with our rings just before we exchanged them. Zach leaned close to my bride's ear and whispered a threat. "Anyone who hurts my dad meets a bad end. The last one is lying in a hospital bed. You better watch yourself." My bride quickly shook her head and promised him, "I will always love him and protect him. I swear on my life." I turned to look at Zach. His face was stern, his eyes red, as he fiercely warned someone else not to bully me. Tears streamed down my face. Maybe Zach had never truly hated me. After all, at 5 years old, he had loved me so much. Perhaps his love was a kind of release. Sophia's story. 7 years into our marriage, Felix came back. I admit I was a little shaken. He was, after all, the great love of my youth. But I never thought about leaving Leo. But then, after I instinctively saved Felix first when we fell in the water, Leo asked for a divorce. I panicked for a moment, but then I remembered he had nowhere else to go, and I felt relieved. He had loved me for so many years. He could never leave me. And besides, there was Zach. That was his beloved son. After Zach was born, even I had to take a back seat. So I was sure he was just angry and would get over it in a little while. He would never leave me and Zach. But this time I gambled and lost. Leo really was done with me. He didn't even want Zach anymore. I got drunk and called him, telling him to come pick me up. I thought that after a few days he must have cooled down. He would definitely take this chance to make up. But he didn't. He kept repeating that we were divorced. A cold dread washed over me, the feeling of things spinning out of my control. I went home that night in a daze. In the living room, I saw Zach playing with the Rubik's Cube Leo had bought him. When he saw me, he looked up, gave me a cold glance, and then looked back down. In that moment, an idea came to me. That night, I took away Zach's blanket. The next day, as expected, he had a cold. I didn't believe Leo could abandon a sick Zach. He would definitely come. I excitedly had Mr. Henderson call him. To make sure Leo wouldn't get angry seeing me, I even left the house. Before I left, I told Zach to make Leo stay. Zach looked up, his face flushed with fever, and gave a silent I left, satisfied. I thought it wouldn't be long before Leo came back, begging me to remarry him for Zach's sake. But I had miscalculated again. Leo didn't come back. He left the city and went to his parents' hometown. I finally realized that I might really be losing him. Later, I had a private investigator find his address. I discovered he had taken up oil painting. He had started making his own friends. He even had a live stream. I foolishly thought that maybe after he had some time to himself, he would come back. So I watched his live stream every day. When Zach found out, he started watching every night too. I figured he must have been thinking the same thing as me. He wanted Leo back too. After all, Leo wasn't just mad at me. Otherwise, how could Zach have failed to convince him to stay? I was like the foolish farmer waiting for the rabbit, hoping he would have a change of heart. I thought I had enough patience. But when I heard a young woman's voice on his stream, I realized I couldn't stand it. I flew into a rage, demanding to know who she was. What was her relationship to him? Leo ignored me and just shut down the stream. He must have known it was me. Even worse, he still hadn't forgiven me. I realized I couldn't just sit and wait anymore. I bought a plane ticket and dragged Zach with me to Asheville. On the plane, I drilled Zach on how to convince his father to stay. Zach just looked at me with a cold smile and shook his head. I grabbed his shoulders and demanded, "Don't you want your father to be with you as you grow up?" Zach looked out at the clouds, his voice young but chillingly calm. "You're not good to him. I'd rather he be free than stay by my side." I froze, my eyes wide with disbelief.
Impossible.
He can only be mine. Zach was incredibly smart and had his own opinions from a young age. He stared at me coldly. "Give up. He lost all hope in you a long time ago, and I won't help you trap him." Later, we saw Leo. Just as Zach had predicted, Leo rejected me. And Zach kept his word. He didn't try to convince Leo to come home. In fact, he used hurtful words to push him even further away. I refused to let go. I harassed him relentlessly, but he treated me like I was invisible. Until the 5th year after our divorce. I couldn't keep chasing him anymore. I got very, very sick. Zach stood by my bed and sneered, telling me I deserved it. I struggled to sit up in my hospital bed and stared at him for a long time. "Did you deliberately make him angry back then, so he would have no reason to stay with us?" Zach was only 10, but he was wise beyond his years. He glanced at me, his voice thin and cold. 5 years ago, after that man came back, Dad was in so much pain. He looked haggard for a long time. I loved him so much. Since he wanted to leave, I decided to let him go without any burdens. You're right, I did it on purpose. But didn't it all start with you? Looking at his precocious face, I was stunned. So that was why Zach's personality had changed so suddenly. He had always been so attached to Leo, loving him and clinging to him. How could a few words from an outsider make him hate his father and be so cruel? It all made sense now. He did it so Leo could leave without any guilt. As a sharp pain pierced my heart, I couldn't help but taunt him. "But you lost him too." Zach suddenly smiled. A sweet smile he only ever showed Leo. "As long as he's happy. By the way, I have some good news for you. He's getting married soon." He invited me to his wedding. "The patient's heart rate is abnormal. What did you say to agitate her? Get out now. She needs emergency care." In the chaos, I saw doctors and nurses rushing toward me out of the corner of my eye. After being scolded, Zach calmly walked out of the room. And then, I couldn't hear or see anything. An endless darkness and silence washed over me. I was finally starting to regret it. If I could go back to the beginning, I would have saved Leo first. Then he would never have left me. Would he? Zach's story. Sophia died when I was 15. After she died, with my grandfather's help, I slowly took over the company. Once I was in control, I went after Felix. The man who had broken my father's heart came begging me for mercy. He kept talking about our childhood connection, asking me to spare him. What connection did we have? The one where he made my father miserable? The one that forced me to leave my father? I shook my head coldly and hit the Felix family's business even harder. Eventually, his company went bankrupt and I took it over. When I learned Felix was hundreds of millions of dollars in debt, I mercifully let him stay at the company to work it off. I even made sure to promote the employees he had once bullied to be his bosses. But he couldn't take it for more than a few years and killed himself. TSK. How boring. To be honest, learning to run a company was painful. But if I didn't learn, I couldn't protect my dad. I wanted to give my dad the best of everything. I pushed him away back then so he could be happy. I study hard now to guarantee his happiness, so that if his current wife ever hurts him the way Sophia did, I can use everything I have to give him a safe harbor. Instead of being like I was as a child, pretending to be cold and making him leave heartbroken. After all, he loved me so much back then. Now that I'm grown up, I can't let him be sad again.